Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Gene Joke here, and today I'm doing a review of Rohga Armour Force from the Windjammers, Karnov and Friends collection, and I'll be adding it to my of every Evercade game ever list. Rohga Armour Force is a side-scrolling run and gun shoot 'em up hybrid arcade game developed by Data East and is the sequel to Vapor Trail, which is also on the same collection. There's a plot that follows on from Vapor Trail and, well, they're shoot 'em ups. I don't pay much attention to the plot, but there are some nice sort of anime style cutscenes introducing the story. You take the role of a pilot of a mech suit and you go and blast away at the various terrorists and their machines and their own mechs. Visually, it's an impressive looking game with some bright colourful sprites and backgrounds which are quite impressively animated. It has a colourful anime inspired look, which is exactly what you'd expect in a game about mechs. The sound effects are suitably meaty and impactful, and the music is fantastic. It's cheesy hard rock and it works perfectly for this sort of game. Stylistically, this game is great, but how does the gameplay compare? Well, to start off, you get to construct your robot, selecting different body parts which will affect the gameplay slightly and your weapons. And speaking of your weapons, you have your main weapon and a secondary weapon. Naturally, your main weapon is your regular fire, your secondary weapon is effectively your screen clearer, massive damage when it's charged type affair. When it comes to firing, it's turbo fire by default, but if you're holding down the fire button, you're locked to shooting either left or right, whichever direction you're facing. To change direction that you're firing in, release the fire, move and then fire in that direction. Fairly straightforward. You can also angle your shots up by a 45-degree angle, and you get power-ups to get different types of weapons. The Vulcan is a rapid-fire spread shot. The cluster shots fires out green energy things in a shotgun-style affair. The grenade gun is what you would expect, slow firing but powerful, and there's a laser gun, which again is exactly what you'd expect. You can also pick up friendly soldiers who will jump on your mech and add additional firing in other directions, so they'll fire behind you and whatnot. You can carry up to 4 of these for extra firepower, although if you take a hit they will jump off and you have to collect them again. Yep, this game isn't a one-hit kill, you do have an energy bar. When it's completely depleted, your mech is destroyed and your pilot will jump out in a sort of a flying smaller mech suit, I suppose, and you can keep on going, although it's a one-hit kill and you can't use your secondary weapon because that's on the mech. As I mentioned, it's a sort of run and gun shoot 'em up. Your mech will mostly walk around and you can jump. There are areas where you'll be sliding on the backgrounds or flying through the air, swimming through the water, that sort of thing. It does mix things up a little bit, but ultimately the gameplay does just come down to shooting lots of enemies, which brings me to my first negative. There's a reasonable amount of different enemies, but throughout the 12 stages there's a lot of repetition. A lot of repetition. The game does get quite repetitive as a whole. Also, it gets extremely chaotic, to the point it feels like it's more of a credit muncher than a game that you can get good at and clear on a single credit. I dread to think how many credits I got through beating the game, and I'm questioning how good I could really get at it, or if it's possible to get good at enough to, one credit it, or even close. It really felt like the only way through was to brute force it rather than play a skill. At least on the later levels anyway. Now, I do think there might be a reason for this. Now, in my research for doing this review, I read that the original Japanese version, which was released under the title Wolffang, had some differences. So in Rohga, as we have on the Evercade, you set out in your mech, fight these terrorists through all 12 levels, you win the day and you beat the game. In Wolffang, you'll do the first stage in Sydney, Australia, and after that you'll choose which level you do next, and progress through a number of levels, I think maybe doing 8 in total. Although there was 12 to choose from, you wouldn't need to do all 12 to finish the game. And it apparently has different endings, whereas on the Western version you only get the good ending. And to be perfectly honest, by the time I got to the end of the game, it really did feel like it had outstayed its welcome, like there was too much game for the amount of gameplay. And if we'd had the Japanese version where you could take different paths or get different endings, it would have given more replay value. So it's a shame we don't have that version. But overall, I do think Rohga Armour Force is a really good fun arcade game. Great full-on action, the style, the music and everything helps carry it through the shortcomings. It's fun enough that you'll want to keep trying to get good and get better, and maybe I should check the dip switch settings because I don't tend to look at those unless I find the game really hard. Maybe a lower difficulty setting will make it more fun. Not that it's actually that difficult, or it's not to begin with, but further into the game it definitely becomes so chaotic that it becomes a struggle, and it's hard to tell what's coming from where and successfully dodge the enemy fire and essentially just not get killed. So I went and had a look and checked the dip switch settings, and there's quite a few that allow you to tailor your gameplay experience. Things like changing the enemy bullet speed, the amount of health they have and the amount of health you have, and when you get extra lives. Definitely a lot that you could use to tweak and tailor your experience. But anyway, I went a bit off topic of realising I'd missed out an aspect. Regardless of the difficulty, it is a fun game to have a blast through, and it's also fun when you're playing multiplayer. Not that most games aren't fun multiplayer anyway, but yeah, it makes it more fun, like it does with most games. Really stupid comment that, I suppose. Although I have picked a few holes in this game, it's like an action movie, or it's like a particularly dumb action movie. It's big, loud, brash, and entertaining. To place it in my ever-growing ranking of every Evercade game ever list, I'd have to place it above Hummings, but below Choo Choo Mimic. And in all honesty, it was quite hard to place. It nearly ended up a bit higher, but well, it still might in time. I do see myself doing a bit of a house cleaning, tweaking of this list at some point, as I tend to do it a little bit off the cuff when I'm making these videos, but that's something I'll do another day. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting, informative, and not too irritating. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.